Hey everybody, it's Gombadex and welcome back to another Kaldheim Premiere Draft. Today we've opened up a pretty nice rare. This is an interesting one in that it can work in either red-black berserkers or black-green elves. I do like the cross-color tribal synergy on this card. It's just really well designed in terms of stuff that you'd make for limited, being able to go in two different of the color pairs there. Is pretty cool. So, Skemfar Avenger, as I said before, as we can see with Herald here, green-black elves is going to be the green-black tribal stuff, and in red and black, that's where all of the berserkers are at. That is less of a clear theme for that color scheme, so I think this will be better in general in green-black, because green-black is really heavy towards elf tribal. That being said, black-red is also just a really aggressive color scheme, so just having a 2-mana 3/1 can be solid as well, even if you don't get a lot of tribal synergies out of that. We do get the black-red rare dual land out of this, and I might want to just take that for my collection. That may turn some heads here. We're going to have Goifgate, where I'm just taking a black-red land for my collection, but I could also end up in black-red berserkers with our Skemfar Avenger, and I don't think that this pack is particularly powerful either way. I guess the best cards we could take here would probably be something in black. I don't think the green cards are that good, and the red cards are not that good, and the green cards are not exactly for like green-black elves, although Icehide Troll can be quite powerful in a snow deck. So the best pick here to go with Skemfar Avenger, I'd probably pick something in black, and there are several choices. I think Jarl of the Forsaken, actually all four of these are pretty comparable in power level. They're all just solid playable stuff. Maybe Tergrid's Shadow, but I am going to take Blightstep Pathway. I am looking to get my play sets of all the pathways, and I have to start considering the value of cards in my collection because I am starting to get a little low on gems lately, so I don't know how many more of these drafts I'll be able to jam out. That being said, this pack is a very easy pick. Binding the Old Gods, 2, a black and a green, destroy a non-land permanent an opponent controls, then grab a forest out of your deck and put it into play tapped. That can include the dual lands in this set. The non-basic common snow dual lands all have basic land types, so that's really nice. And then on the third mode, all of your creatures gain Death Touch until end of turn, which can be quite solid in an elf deck with a lot of little 1/1s. This card's really good. All it needs is the very first part of the saga to be a solid playable, and the fact that it gives you extra value by grabbing a land out of your deck and potentially getting something out of that Death Touch ability is incredibly solid. So, I think Bound in Gold is probably the best off-color card here, but we've got decent enough stuff in black that I'm pretty cool just staying there. Elderfang Disciple and Withercrown are fine. Elderfang Disciple is an elf, and if we do end up in black-green, which it's looking like right now, with a really solid multicolored black-green card, we would like a decent amount of elves to go with Skemfar Avenger. Even if we end up in black-red, the Disciple is still a relevant creature type for the Avenger, so I think I like the Disciple for that. At the same time, Draugr's Helm is just a more powerful card, 5 mana for a 4/4 menace, and you get that equipment around for the late game. I think I still want to roll with the Helm, and it does create a zombie berserker as the creature token, so this is also a relevant type for Skemfar Avenger. That would be probably the biggest argument against the Draugr's Helm would have been that, oh, it's not even a tribal type that you care about. But actually, with Avenger, we do care about berserkers as well, so I like the Draugr's Helm there. Here we have Sculptor of Winter, a very solid elf if you can get the snowlands to go with it. If we end up with some of these in our deck, we're going to very highly look for the green-black snow duel to go with Binding the Old Gods, but I'm going to stay heavily on black here and just take another solid Draugr's Helm. Withercrown is a solid removal spell, however, if your opponent wants to keep that creature on the board and it could block things that are doing more than 1 power, they can just keep it on the board blocking stuff, so it's not It's not the greatest removal spell ever. It also doesn't get rid of its abilities if it has a good tap ability or passive ability or anything like that. And black does have access to some very good removal in this set at common with Feed the Serpent for 4 mana to just permanently exile a thing. So Wither Crown's not a card you have to take super highly, but it can end up in your deck. I kind of want to take Sculptor of Winter here over Way Down or Skull Raid. I have been utterly destroyed by Skull Raids before, and I've heard that they're pretty decent in this set, but I'm not the kind of player that likes to play Mind Rots in Limited, although this is probably one of the best Limited Mind Rots they've made, simply because usually when you're having your opponent discard 2 in the late game, it will become unplayable at some point, because your opponent will just play everything that they hit. But if they do that against a Skull Raid, at least you're drawing cards out of it, so it gives you that ability. And I don't like Way Down that much. It's the kind of removal spell you only want 1 or 2 of, because it's kind of hard to cast consistently, because you have to wait until something is in the grave. And if you have like multiple copies of it, you're going to need multiple things going to your grave. So just not the greatest. Draugr's Helm we're going to have to treat as a 5 mana card because you barely ever want to cast this. Just as the equipment, you want to get that token out of it too. So looking at our curve here, I think we're okay to take an Elderleaf Mentor. It is pretty early to think about your mana curve, but definitely when you get into like pack 2, you have to start considering how your curve is looking and make sure you don't end up with like 4 6 drops or 4 or 5 drops or any of that stuff. Definitely want more cheap things, but at this point, I think Elderleaf Mentor is kind of the strongest card for our deck, being able to make 2 elves off of the 1 card, and I'm not too worried about taking the moderately expensive card there. We are so early in the draft, we're okay to take a 4-drop. And I like the Elven Bow here. Again, it's a relevant creature type, and it's one of those equipment that you can move around later after the token that you produce dies. So it's like a 3 mana 2/3 reach with extra upside, being able to keep the equipment around. It is quite expensive to re-equip to things, but the baseline of this card is a 3 mana 2/3 Elf Warrior with reach, which is solid for this deck. Snow-Covered Swamp is a consideration there now that we have Sculptor of Winter, but that's probably our only thing that cares about snow. Yeah, it's our only card that cares about snow so far. We've got kind of a hard pick between Skemfar, Elderhall, and Herald here. The fact that both of these wield pick 9 is an incredibly good sign for green-black elves. It looks like Golgari Elves is going to be wide open this draft. I think I will go with Herald first. 3 mana for 3/2 menace, and you're drawing an extra card off of this. Seems like really good, whereas the Elderhall can be really good in the late game, but you have to have the 6 mana to be able to use it, 5 mana plus that land itself, and it doesn't do anything really good unless you're at the point where you have your 6 mana and your opponent still has like a 2 toughness or less creature out, because that is a -2/-2 effect at sorcery speed. I guess you do get the elf tokens either way. So I like Jarl, I like Horizon Seeker, and I like Raise the Draugr. I'm just going to go with the Jarl here, I think. But really, you could take any of those, whichever one you like the most. We are the kind of deck that can basically always use Raise the Draugr to pick up 2 things. So I do have the Elven Bow for reach here, otherwise I might consider the Recluse. Having only 2 toughness is a big downside, but sometimes you just need the reach, and it is very high power. But here I'm just going to take Infernal Pet. I don't think I'm going to end up running this. We'll have to have a lot of cheap cards to do so, but we'll see how things go here. And I do like the Elderfang Disciple for the relevant creature type. And I guess Jaspera Sentinel has a relevant creature type as well, although I wouldn't love to play that. And we wield Way Down, so things are looking wide open for Golgari Elves here. So we are doing mighty fine, and I get to open up a nice mythic rare for our collection. This card's not actually that insane in Limited, although it is quite good. In Limited, this is basically a 6/6 Trample Haste. That's almost everything it ever does. If we get anything that places counters on stuff, like +1/+1 counters or Planeswalkers, we get to double our counters, which is sweet. But we're not likely to get a lot of that. Right now we just have a Saga, I guess. It would trigger both modes. I don't actually know how this works with sagas. The most likely thing we can do with this ability is shut off our opponent's sagas, because whenever one counter is put on our opponent's stuff, they get half that rounded down. So if they're putting 1 counter on a Saga, which is what you do every turn, instead they get 0. So we literally just shut off all our opponent's Sagas if this is on the board. So definitely taking Vorinclex. It's just a really, really solid creature for the late game. And it's also a mythic rare that's a fun card to own. Now, Serap's Packmate and Struggle for Skemfar are both cards I like a lot, and there is the Snowland for the Sculptor of Winter. So Serap's Packmate, a 3/3, and we're drawing a card, just a good value play. And this can block pretty much every creature that costs like 2 or less, and eat it up without dying, so it's quite good against aggressive decks. Just a solid body. And then Struggle for Skemfar is obviously the removal if you have a large enough creature to fight with. So I guess I'll take Struggle for Skemfar first, because I don't actually have a lot of removal. I just have the Binding the Old Gods right now. And we have a Vorinclex, so maybe we can put 2 counters on something and have a lot of fun with that. Probably won't happen, but we'll see. Now it's between Jaspera Sentinel and Draugr Recruiter for cards in green and black, and I don't really like either of those cards. I think that the Recruiter just has a very small power and toughness for its cost, although it does have a good boast ability if you can somehow get that going. And yeah, that's not a relevant creature type even, so I'm just going to take Snow-Covered Forest because the other 2 cards in our colors are just so small, so relatively weak. So we definitely want to pick that up to go with our Sculptor. Well, I don't have a lot of cards at 3 mana right now, so I could take Horizon Seeker. This card's solid, grabbing a land every time you attack with it if you're spending your boast mana. Alternatively, Litjar Glade Warden is a changeling, so it is an elf, and it gives you a very powerful mana sink in the late game, and a good way to use the resource of your graveyard against your opponent. So yeah, this card seems pretty solid. I am starting to get like a lot at 4, but the thing we have to consider here is that Jarl, if we're stuck on mana, can be foretold for 2, and then we're casting it for 2 on a later turn, and Struggle for Skemfar can be foretold for 2 and cast for 1 on a later turn, so we don't actually have too many cards that we can only cast for 4 mana, because we have those alternate costs on the others. Kind of want to pick up a Masked Vandal. I definitely want to end up with at least one of these. This card almost always has something relevant to hit. This is a card that didn't look very impressive during the preview or spoiler season, but once you've played with the set a few times, you just end up in so many situations where you realize, oh, my opponent's got a sick enchantment out or a sick artifact. That just happens a lot, so I really like Masked Vandal here. It's also an elf, but there's also that Elderleaf Mentor, which is a little hard to pass up. Producing 2 elves at the price of 1 card is just real nice with like Skemfar Avenger. That being said, I am going to go with the Masked Vandal here. I do quite like that card. We've got the Packmates, the Gladewalker, since it is an elf, or the Struggle for Skemfar. Kind of want to take another Struggle, but maybe we take Packmate here. I don't think I'm going to end up taking Gladewalker. I suppose it does make counters, which could combo with Vorinclex in the very late game, but by itself, just a 2-mana 2/2 or a 1/1 that puts 1 counter on something is definitely the least impressive of these 3 cards, I'd say. You know what? I don't know. Hopefully we can wheel stuff like the Packmates. Green-black did seem really open in the first pack, but it might be starting to get drafted up here. How many creatures do I have right now? 11. Let me move all of my non-creature stuff actually over, so I just see what my creature curve looks like for like what I'm dumping on the field on each turn. Elven Bow's on 3. I'm just trying to decide between 2 mediocre creatures, the 2-mana one or the 5-mana one. That's why I'm trying to look at my curve here. I guess with double Draugr's Helm, I'm very unlikely to want the Kennel Master, so I'll take the Gladewalker there. Because, yeah, I have 2 5s and a 6 for my creatures in the late game already, and those are both, I think, more solid than that. Well, we can take Rootless Yew, and then when Rootless Yew dies, we get to search our library for Vorinclex, reveal it, and put it into our hand. That seems pretty cool. There is also the 1-mana elf, but not a very powerful one. And Broken Wings is main deckable artifact enchantment hate, but we've got the Masked Vandal for that. I'm going to try the Rootless You out. Maybe we get that combo going. Grab a Vorinclex, and our opponent's just like, oh dear, really now? Out of this pack, I will definitely take the Elf. We're unlikely to get enough snow mana to work with the Valkyrie. I'm not really on that plan here, being in green-black. We're focused primarily on Elves. I'll take a Wither Crown. We've been passing up a lot of these earlier, and I could use some more little removal. Should throw that in the non-creature pile over there. And I don't like either of these cards. I'm not likely to run these. I'm already kind of wanting to cut the first Sentinel. I do like Raven Wings. I think that could be solid in this deck with a bunch of little token kind of cards. I guess we don't have a lot of them, but even just with a lot of small creatures in general, stuff like the Elderfang Disciple or the Glade Walker, giving +1/+0 and flying actually makes them a lot more relevant. And here I'll take Elderleaf Mentor over the Grim Jogger just for the more relevant creature type. And take a Broken Wings. Don't know how likely I am to keep that in the deck, but we'll see how things progress in this final pack. And we get the black-green duel. I do want to take this for collection purposes, but I don't think that this would actually be the best pick, but it would be a solid pick here because now we are mana fixing the colors that we're running. And we have some difficult mana costs. I have black-green on turn 3 with Herald. I've got double green on turn 5 and 6 with Rootless You and Vorinclex. So maybe Tergrid's Shadow, maybe Elven Bow. These both seem pretty solid. The Sculptor of Winter is quite solid as well. Just some decent cards here, but I am going to take the land. I don't know what's going on with my computer right now, but it sounds like it's taken off. So my apologies to that if you can hear that. Yeah, that is quite strange. Alright, so Blizzard Brawl, Skemfar Elderhall, Grizzled Outrider, the 5-mana 5/5 elf, is solid. It's got a relevant creature type, and it's just a solid body. This has been pretty impressive. Usually you're not that excited about these cards, but I found the stat line to just be good in this format. Kind of want to just take the Elderhall here. Sure, this is a really late game card, but being able to, off of your land, give -2/-2 to something and create some elves is quite nice. And the Blizzard Brawl is just going to be having one of our creatures fight one of our opposing creatures. It's not going to be triggering the snow permanent upside because we just don't have enough snow permanents. And we already have 2 struggles for fighting opposing creatures. So we just have like kind of a better version for our deck. And this pack, pretty much everything here looks pretty unplayable for us. A 3-mana 2/3 with no relevant abilities is not going to cut it. I guess this is alternatively a 2-mana very slow 2/3. Yeah, I don't want to play any of these cards. I guess I'll take a Dread Rider because it gives me a second card to grab off of Rootless You when Rootless You dies, but I don't think I'm likely to keep that in this deck. And we did get a packmate now. I don't really like King Harold's Revenge, but it has destroyed me sometimes, so maybe my evaluation of this card is off. This just seems like one of those cards that I will always have just in a bad circumstance for it. One of your creatures gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control, and then trample, and it has to be block defable, so your opponent has to block it with something, but they can block it with whatever they want. So if they have a lot of creatures out, like in our deck, where we're spitting out 1/1 Elf Warriors, we don't actually have to do a really bad block. We can just chump block with a 1/1. Ooh, Elderfang Disciple here is very nice. And Woodland Chasm is great. Normally I do like the Lindworm, but we have 2 6-mana cards already. One of them is quite good, and the Woodland Chasm is very nice with our Binding the Old Gods and our Sculptor of Winter, so I'm going to take the green-black duel. Okay. Bloodsky Berserker, I mean, it's kind of hard to double spell in this deck, but you only have to cast 2 spells in one turn, basically one time with this card. If we just play this card on turn 4, we play this into an Elderfang Disciple, like that's pretty solid, and we do have a lot of 2-mana stuff, so that seems maybe okay. Tergrid's Shadow, It's a card that always looks like it'll impress me, but every time I've cast this card, I've just like lost the game because I've always had like some creatures on field. You do want to like ideally put in some work towards it to where you're clearing out 2 of your opponent's creatures and none of your own. So potentially it does a lot. There is another Masked Vandal here, but there's also another Elven Bow. I've got a lot of 2. I think I'm going to take another Elven Bow. I'm not so sure on that one. If I get a million Elven Bows, then I think I should have taken the Masked Vandal. Now I kind of want the Sculptor of Winter again, because I guess I only have 2 snow lands, so the Sculptor's not often going to untap things, but it's another 2 mana creature. I do want a lot of those. I can cut Gladewalker out if I get enough of these kind of just other 2 mana 2/2s. Now I will take that Grizzled Outrider. We may end up playing it if I cut some other stuff. Maybe I cut the U and the Dread Rider, play Grizzled Outrider instead. Don't think I'm playing Broken Wings, but it could get played. It certainly has a relevant ability pretty often. As you can tell from Masked Vandal, the reason I like Masked Vandal so much is it almost always is blowing something else up. And the Broken Wings is going to blow things up just as often, but you're not getting a creature out of it. So you need the extra upside of being able to blow up a flyer to actually be pretty relevant for it to be better than Masked Vandal. And that really just depends on the matchup. I'm going to take King Harold's Revenge here. I might try it out. They do tend to go late in the packs. I think I'm cutting Jaspera Sentinel. Probably cutting Way Down. Not sure. Definitely got a lot to do in the deck building. Probably cutting Infernal Pet, though. Get another King Harold's Revenge. We can be getting a lot of revenge for our King of Skemfar over here. Alright. So now we are deck building. Our Seer Step pathway and Blight Step pathway did not happen. We did not end up in Black-Red Berserkers. We ended up in Green-Black Elves. So I need to cut 9 cards, and I have 20 creatures in here, including 2 3-mana 2/3s with Reach and 2 5-mana 4/4s with Menace. So I actually have 24 creatures in here, so we'll definitely start by cutting some creatures, I think. I like most of our 2s, except Gladewalker's probably our weakest one. Elder Fang Disciple is really bad to draw it in the late game, just at the wrong time. But sometimes you draw it in the late game and your opponent is still holding on to like 1 removal spell or something. And now they just have to discard it to this or use it on your 1/1. It's rare that this does a ton, but it's solid. Gives you that card advantage when you play it by giving your opponent card disadvantage. Even if you are just dropping it on turn 2 and they're just discarding a land. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the U and the Dread Rider. Get rid of that little combo, don't go so all in on that. So we have 17 creatures now, which means 21 with Elven Bows and Draugr's Helms. I think we can still cut some more creatures. I don't really want to cut any 3s. I guess I do have the 2 Elven Bows to consider at my 3 drops, so actually do have quite a bit. And I've got quite a bit of 5s with double Draugr's Helm and Outrider. I potentially have Ramp with Sculptor of Winter. How many snowlands did I end up with? Still just 2, right? Yeah, I'm not really ramping much, so I kind of like cutting another 5, just having 2 cards at 5 and 1 at 6. I'll cut that Outrider. 5 cards to cut now. Kind of want to cut King Harold's Revenge, but if I cut this out of my deck every time, I'll never know how good it could potentially be. So I'll leave 1 of these in, just to try it out. But I don't think I'm particularly hurting for removal with 2 Struggle for Skemfar, Binding the Old Gods, Wither Crown, and Way Down. So I could even cut 1 of these kind of cards as well. Definitely not cutting Binding or the Struggles, I think, but I might cut a Way Down or a Wither Crown. I think I'll cut way down, and then 3 more cuts to go. This can get foretold, potentially. These can get foretold, potentially. But everything else has to be the full mana spent on them. 3 cuts. What do we do here? I guess I will cut Infernal Pet. I don't have a ton of like double spell synergies or a lot of easy ways to do that, except casting like 2 2-mana cards or something like that. So unless you're getting a lot out of double spelling, I don't really want you in my deck. So I'll keep the Berserker but not the Pet, because the Berserker is getting 2 counters every time I do that. Although it doesn't get Flying, it only gets Menace. Maybe I am cutting this as well. But this card can just be so solid if you do it just one time. Just a 2-mana 3/3. Suppose we don't get to grab it off the Herald either. Do have a lot of cards that we can't grab off Herald. I guess I have 3. Jarl of the Forsaken, Packmate, and Monstrous Raider. None of those I can pick off the Herald. Berserker either. So that's a little awkward in that sense. I do like Jarl of the Forsaken with 2 1/1s in this deck, and just a lot of small creatures in general. Jarl of the Forsaken can trade up your Masked Vandal or your Elder Fang Disciples into something big. So I think, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut Bloodsky Berserker. Don't really know how I feel about that, but I feel I'm going to be using a lot of my mana every turn, just dumping something out. Like on 3, I've got some 3 drops, I've got some 5 drops, and then later in the game I have like equip abilities I want to use to move equipment around. I have Litjara's ability I want to sink mana into, so I don't know how often I'll be able to just like cast a 3-mana card and a 2-mana card on turn 5 or something like that. To cast 2 things in one. I feel like the King Herald's Revenge is the last cut here, but you know, I totally forgot the Berserker does combo with Vorinclex as well, so it would get 4 counters every time, but that's such a win more strategy there. Like if we already have both of those cards on the board, we're already going to win the game most often. Alright, I have to cut one more thing and I don't know what I want to do. I guess I will cut like 1 Wither Crown here. I really don't want to cut a Raven Wings with all these ground creatures everywhere, and they're all pretty small. Alright, I am going to try this out. My average is kind of low, but I don't think I cut a land on this, because I've got, you know, mana sinks and equip effects and some expensive stuff to do. So here we are with this Golgari Elves deck. We'll see how well this can do. I've got 15 green, 9 black symbols. 6, 7, 8 green, 7. And then 7 black? 6. Yeah, and 2 that are both. That seems fine to me. I do have like 2 mana cards at black, so I don't want to like cut down to 2 less black sources than green sources. We'll just have it weighted up 1 more land towards green than black here. Let's get into the game, see how well this does here. This is one of the more simple drafts I've had in a while. We just took some solid cards towards the strategy, and then it ended up being pretty open in that first pack. After the first pack, I don't think we saw anything crazy for Golgari Elves, but we got a few solid pickups, like the non-basic land relatively late and things like that. So, not the greatest draft in the universe, but a pretty simple one where we didn't really have to stay open or hop around with any strategies here. Let's see how well this deck works in practice, though. Feel I do have to keep this because I have both of my colors, but it is an awkward one. We essentially have a 4-mana card and 2 5-mana cards with this hand, because Draugr's Helm, all of the equipment like that, you really just never want to run out in the early game, so we never want to run this on the field on turn 2 and not get the token out of it, because then we're not equipping it forever. Well, I guess we are starting off with our Skemfar Avenger. Unfortunately, the Skemfar Avenger is nowhere near as good as Midnight Reaper was back in Guilds of Ravnica. That one would draw you a card even when it died. Unfortunately, this one only draws us cards when our other creatures die. So I can't just block and draw a card off of it. If I could, I might just block Finn here so I don't have to deal with it in the late game. But it only does 1 damage to us a turn, while it is putting poison counters on us, which can be scary. Unless they do just hit us with this 5 times, I don't think that will matter, because I don't expect any other Death Touch. There's not a lot of Death Touch in this set. It's mainly just Finn as far as I can remember, and the rune that gives something Death Touch, but that's in black. So I can play a Masked Vandal of my own for no value, or I could just play King Harold's Revenge to kill their Masked Vandal. Yeah, this feels a little dumb, but I'm actually gonna just use this as removal, I think. Because, like, what does a 1/3 add to my board? It doesn't add anything. I can just block their Masked Vandal so that it doesn't damage me, but I can't deal with Finn still that way. I suppose the best argument for not casting Revenge here is that Elderleaf Mentor will put 2 more creatures on my board, and then I get to Revenge with a big, like, +3/+3. But yeah, we'll just eat their Masked Vandal, I guess. I feel that's the best thing I can do with my mana here, and that's the main reason to do it. Because the other thing that we have to think about is if we end up trying to cast Herald's Revenge later in the game, like if we try to cast it instead of, or after an Elderleaf Mentor, that means that if we hit our 5th land, we're doing that instead of dropping down these Draugr's Helms. So I've got like 2 5-mana plays coming up when I hit my 5th land, so I have a lot of stuff to be doing later, and not a lot that actually matters now, so we'll just do the best thing that we can do now, even though we might be able to get a better use out of that card way later in the game. At least by doing that, we're doing something relevant in the early game, instead of just making a 1/3 that doesn't do anything for us yet. And now I get to just go ham. Don't think I want to attack with Avenger that badly because of the fact that they can just trade with Finn, but trading with Finn isn't the end of the world. This is a solid card, and I'm now just dumping out 4/4 menaces, so I think I just get aggressive here. And they can block our 1/1 elf token to kill something without losing a creature, but then I draw a card because of the Berserker, so I think we're in a very good position to just try to slam our opponent down while they're a little stuck on mana here, still on 3. They're down to 12 already, and now I've got a menace creature. I guess if their deck is loaded with Masked Vandals, these equipment are going to be a lot worse, but we still get a 2/2 out on the board out of that. I am just going to drop down another Draugr's Helm, I think. We'll see if they want to chump block or just stop 2. They just stop 2, go down to 9. I will try again. If my opponent just has 3 Masked Vandals in their opening hand, there's not a lot I can do about that. I'm not going to play around them having 3 Masked Vandals in their opener, because we're only 12 cards into their deck. Statistically speaking, they'd have to be in a deck that has like 6 or 7 Masked Vandals for that to be a very likely outcome. Alright, so they did not have the 3rd. I kind of want to just attack with everybody here. They could eat my 1/1, but if they do that, they take 9. Yeah, so they just die if they do that. I could play Elven Bow and suit it up onto something to get in for more damage. That actually does seem pretty solid. It does cost 3 to re-equip. I do want to play this, get the token out of it, and then suit up to have a more aggressive attack here. I guess the biggest argument against this is I'm not dropping down Elderleaf Mentor this turn if I do that. But now they need like burn spells in hand because they're not even killing one of my creatures by blocking it. They probably have 1 burn spell here, maybe 2. They could have a Demon Bolt Foretold, because they do have 1 Foretold card that would cost 1 red mana to do 4 to something, kill my my Menacer there. And then they could have a Frostbite for 1 red mana instant speed to do 2 damage. So there's the Frostbite. We will see if they have Demon Bolt Foretold. Looks like a no. So they take 6, they're down to 3 life, and I have enough mana to just re-equip this this Draugr's Helm to give any of my tokens +2/+2 in Menace. So even if they had a way to kill my creature there, I'd be in a good spot. They did have a way to bring back Masked Vandal to potentially blow up another artifact, but with no creatures engraved, they don't get to blow up my equipment. And wow, that is a great draw. That makes it just lethal. Would not have quite been lethal otherwise, but it would have been close because of Menace. They'd have to double block that with 2 things, and then block 1 on the other 2, so they would take like 1 or 2 damage there and lose a lot of creatures. So that was some really solid stuff there from our deck. The equipment that come with creature tokens really showing off their power there. Even when our opponent Masked Vandaled twice to blow up 2 of them. Actually, I can't remember correctly if they did. I know they cast 2 Masked Vandals, but I don't know if the second one actually got to blow anything up. Oh no, it was the first one that they cast. It didn't get to blow anything up because it was cast in the early game just as a 1/3 blocker. So they did only blow up 1 of our things. But they had the Masked Vandals. It was scary. Alright, here we are in round 2. See if we can't keep this momentum going. Ooh, Skemfar Elder Hall in this opener with the 2-drop rare to start off. Into Coma's Faithful, into Lejar Glade Warden. We've got a curve. Powerful 2-mana card, 3-mana card, and 4-mana card. A definite keep. Our 3-mana card combos really well into our turn 4 play, because when this dies, everybody mills 3 cards. That'll fill our graveyard to have creatures to start putting counters on things. So, really solid stuff out of this opener. Here's the Skemfar Avenger. See what our opponent wants to do about it. They are reading the card. Our opponent starts off with Guardian Gladewalker, just a 2/2 with all creature types. They're on green-black as well, so I would expect that they are caring about the elves, and with Herald, that is very clearly green-black elves coming at us, grabbing a Grizzled Outrider off the top for a 5-mana 5/5 later in this game. That will be quite scary. Definitely a threat. Our Elder Hall is very likely to be able to kill something in this matchup, because there's going to be a lot of stuff with like 2 or less toughness. Could have offered the trade with Herald there, but I kind of still don't like it just because I want to draw a lot of cards here to try to draw something to deal with like 5/5s. Well, when our opponent casts Binding the Old Gods and just straight up destroys our Skemfar Avenger, we are really hurt by not just squeezing in for 3 damage there. But if it weren't for having Binding the Old Gods, I think that they actually may have just taken the trade for the Avenger, because they know I have Elder Hall coming up to kill small things, so they might not really care too much about these creatures, more about the 5/5. I don't know if I want to trade here. Not really, but like I take 5, I go to 13, I hit them, they go down to 17, and I go up to 16 again. Yeah, I can take this and just get some lifelink in here to trade back, and now I'm just going to cast my 3/3 and draw a card, and then I have a creature up to block their 2/2. I could cast Masked Vandal to destroy their Binding the Old Gods so they don't grab a forest with it. I suppose the forest would be the guaranteed 5th mana for Outrider, but it comes into play tapped anyway, and I feel they probably already have one. I think I would much rather just curve out here with a bigger creature and draw a card. Whether or not Masked Vandal would be a good play here, like, is so dependent on whether or not they need that land off of the binding. So I'm not a gambling man here. I'm not going to assume that they don't have a 5th mana. We'll see, though. Maybe they didn't. They did, so I'm very glad I didn't just drop down Masked Vandal that turn. However, we could Masked Vandal here just to stop their creatures from getting Death Touch, but how much does that really help them? If their creatures get Death Touch in this next turn, the only creature that benefits from that is their 2/2? I guess the Menace could benefit from that as well. I am 2 mana away from using the Elder Hall. I need 6 total, 5 other lands, and I tap this one. So we're not Elder Halling soon. So I can blow up Binding of the Old Gods and cast Sculptor of Winter, or I can just play 1/3/3. Playing 1/3/3 would be better if their creatures weren't getting Death Touch here, because then I can double block a 5/5 with 2 3/3s easily. But the fact that they are getting Death Touch means I think I want to shut that down so that they don't. And now I just have a lot of blockers, so I can block the Menace well. I can even block the 5/5 decently, blocking it with a 3/3 and a 2/2. Not like perfectly. We are trading 2 for 1 to kill that. Of course, if they have a removal spell, a fight spell like Struggle for Skemfar, that'd be really bad. Unfortunately, we are dying to the one-sided wrath of Crippling Fear. Choose any creature type, and the creatures that aren't that type get -3/-3 until end of turn. So they got to choose Warrior, because Herald, Grizzled Outrider, and the Changeling are warriors, but my Elf Rogue, my Elf Cleric, and my Wolf, none of that was warriors. So that's where the Crippling Fear is such a powerful card, because even in the mirror match where we're both Elf tribal decks, they can still make it a one-sided wrath. Just a really impressive card. So we are going to crack the Elder Hall this turn to kill Herald and get 2 1/1 Shump blockers here, because it's definitely better than just putting a 3/3 out. And if they have a pump spell, we are just dead. I guess not quite. Ooh, if they have literally that exact spell, we're dead, because it gives hexproof, so it counters the effect of the land, so I don't get any tokens to block with out of it either. Alright. Not too much to say there about this match. It was a pretty basic match. I think our opponent just drew some more powerful stuff than we did. Just played some better spells. Very standard game of Limited there. Unfortunately, the Magic Arena servers have been being very, very slow for me lately. I don't know if that's happening to anybody else, but literally everything else that I play is working completely fine, and I play like some first-person shooters and stuff. So it's kind of ridiculous to me that Magic Arena, of all things, the card game, is giving me like 20-second load screens on their servers sometimes. So I don't know what's going on with that today. Alright, let's get that out of the way. Head into round 3 here. 1 win and 1 loss. Only lost to the mirror match, so maybe we'll only lose against other Golgari Elves decks. We'll see. I've got a win out of this already, so it can't go as poorly as some of my recent drafts have gone. I've got some 0-3s under my belt this set. I feel I've 0-3'd this set more than any other set somehow. Alright, I will keep this. Tons of solid stuff at 3 mana. I'm just going to go 3-drop into 3-drop into 3-drop into 3-drop. Because I'll probably grab another 3 mana card off of Herald. So the curve is really awkward, that's for sure. But we are just slamming tons of stuff down. So it can be potentially quite good. And I've got a ton of equipment here, so once we get to the late game, I have tons of late game plays by just being able to turn all of my early little tokens that these things make into like a really big threat. Like, if I have enough mana, I can just scooch everything over and give something plus, let's see, +4? Yeah, +4, +6 reach and menace, so that could be really big. I don't remember if I have any cards that require double black. I don't think so. I did not manage to get a Feed the Serpent. Unfortunately, that would be great in here, the exile removal spell. So since I don't have any double blacks, we'll just play the second green so I am ready to cast Vorinclex very late into this game. So Elven Bow would give me a 2/3 blocker for the Berserker. So it slows down my opponent a bit. On red-black, I think I am in the market for just slowing down my opponent. If I just cast Herald here, sure, I'm drawing another card, but I have so many cards to play, I don't need to draw more playables yet. And putting down a 3/2 on this board does not block anything they have well. I would block the Berserker and we'd trade, but here with my Elf Warrior, I could block the Berserker and just eat their creature. You know, with the amount of creatures I have in hand, it may even have been worth blocking Fearless Pup just to slow them down, because technically over the course of this game, I'll only have lost a 1/1 token, since I do keep the equipment around. And they would lose playing a 3-mana card this turn. I'd basically time walk them. I do feel I can get to a position where I have really good blocks for the pup very easily, though. I just need one more creature on this board and I could double block it. I think I want to play another Elven Bow, to be honest. Now that Infernal Pet can get flying if they cast 2 spells. And I still like 2/3s better than my other stuff. I guess I could play the 3/3 Glade Warden, but if I play the 3/3 Glade Warden, I won't want to double block the pup, because then they can first strike the Glade Warden away. But now if I double block the pup, they're just first striking one of these 2 away. Unless they have specifically Demon Bolt. Ooh, Carter Doomscourge is really good. Forces me to attack with everything next turn, so I have to send in with these 2. They probably won't even block. I guess they block one of them with Carter, which means that it will die as an attacking creature, so I'll lose 1 life and they'll gain 1 life. Yeah, let's just get the combat over with here. I don't have any tricks, so these are forced to attack. So they send on in. Jarl of the Forsaken would have been a fantastic draw, because then they just make their blocks and I just blow up their Carter with Jarl. That would be really sick. Definitely going to kill Infernal Pet over the Berserker, I think. We get drained for 2 life there. I have 5 mana total. I could just play my 4/4 Menace. But Carter's a 4/3, so now I'm actually wanting to just trade with a 3-power creature. I like trading with my Lifelinker best, but Herald might draw me a 2-mana card, and then I trade there and block something else. We're definitely playing the long game at this point. We're going to have all these equipment left over, so our late game creatures with enough mana turn into all just quite big things. So I am okay to trade down a little bit with my Herald. Or it's not even trading down, it's still kind of trading up. But a 3/2 Menace is definitely not a creature I'm super happy to lose generally. But yeah, I will be trading for Carter if they offer it. I picked the Sculptor of Winter so I can actually have a creature that's big enough to block and trade with their Death Knell Berserker. As much as making them discard a card is like good card advantage, I'm needing to clear their stuff off the board here. I take 8 if I don't block. I guess I'm still at 8 life if I don't. And blocks are entirely just chump blocks at this point. I don't think I can lose these creatures, or afford to lose these creatures, I should say. I really want to put a lifelink down now. So now I could put a lifelink down and give it +1/+2 reach to have a 4/3 reach lifelink. That actually seems pretty solid, probably my best play here. Now we are all in the mode for blocking. They have 2 cards in hand. Hopefully no removal. Removal would be a little sad for my Coma's Faithful. Even flyers are fine. I've got reach here, so I'll trade with the Reaper. Well, if they attack with everything, I won't trade with the Reaper. Because I have 2 Elven Bows, I can turn anything into a creature that's big enough to block the Reaper very easily. It only has to have 2 power to turn into a 3 power reach creature. So we're actually going to just trade with the scariest stuff first. Probably get Doomscourge off the board so that I can kill their attacking creatures without losing life each time. And then trade with the Berserker, leave my Herald out. I guess I could kill all of them and I'm getting drained for 3. Getting drained for 3 and gaining 4, but I also lose 2 life. So I'm net losing 5 life and gaining 4, so I'm down 1. I go to 7, all their creatures are gone. They don't have any cards in hand. Well, all the creatures I'm blocking. Yeah, this seems fine. They're left with a Fearless Pup and a Vengeful Reaper. Now if I hit a land, I play Glade Warden, give it reach. Alright. And then we're hoping to draw another land to play our Draugur's Helm and give that reach. Unfortunately, the Glade Warden is not going to be getting value out of its effect. I do have to tap to do that, and seeing as I'm down at 7 life, I am 100% blocking this turn. Whether I'm blocking Pup or Reaper depends on if they attack with Pup. If they don't attack with Pup, I will still be forced to basically block the Reaper. Alright, ooh, Binding the Old Gods. So I can Binding the Old Gods. This effect's only at a sorcery, right? Ooh, I can only use this as a sorcery, which means I basically can't use this because I am forced to tap this creature to get counters. I can't afford to not have blockers. Our opponent doesn't have any snow mana for the Hailstorm Valkyrie, so that's just a 2/2 flying trample. 5, 6, 7 mana. I kill one of their things, or I make a 4/4 and I give it reach next turn. This doesn't feel awesome, but I do feel like I need to get rid of one of the flyers because if they draw any removal for my 1 reach creature, then playing a 4/4 menace on the ground will just get me killed. Because I'll be taking 4 in this guy that turn and then 4 the next. Plus this sets us up, we get to grab a forest into play tapped, so I guess the fact that it comes in tapped doesn't set us up perfectly. If we got to get the forest untapped, that would mean we get to play Helm and equip it this turn no matter what. But we do have to top deck an untapped source to be able to play the Helm and equip my Elven Bow. If I don't draw a land though, we're still hopefully fine. It all depends on what they have there, what they have foretold. Could be a Demon Bolt that does like 4 damage, so they would have to stack it up with Fearless Pup attacking in. I feel if it was a Demon Bolt, they probably would have already attacked last turn, if it were Demon Bolt or Jarl of the Forsaken. Unfortunately, it's Haunting Voyage, which means they get to return their entire graveyard to the battlefield, right? Everything that shares a creature type. So pick whatever creature type, get it all back. See, it's probably like Berserker, right? I guess their creature types didn't go that well, but yeah, if they pick Berserker, then the enter the battlefield effect on Doomscourge goes in, and I just die because I have to attack here. They get to give Indestructible for attacks as well, but that doesn't really matter because I can block here. But yeah, now I have to attack with Glade Warden next turn, which means I don't have it as a blocker. They also just got 3 creatures off of that 1 card here. Alright, well I did grab the untapped source, which is cool. I guess I could use the ability instead. Yeah, this literally has to attack anyway. I'm dead on board either way, but since this has to attack, if I go to combat, it just attacks in, and then they just take 4, go to 21, so I might as well just make that bigger. because I don't need to give it reach here because of the fact that the most damage I can stop is by blocking one of their 4-power ground creatures and not the 2-power flyer, so I'm not going to be blocking a flyer anyway. Not that it matters, this is still over lethal. We'll kill Doom Scourge and send a message, I guess. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh yeah, it really doesn't matter here. Unfortunate game there. Pretty bad loss. I feel we were doing everything in our power to set up to potentially take over the late game by having all these equipment and starting to get a lot of big stuff, but our opponent did just have the absolute destruction 4-for-1, or I guess it was a 3-for-1, return their whole grave to the field card. That was absolutely brutal. The Carter Doom Scourge was definitely the winning card for our opponent. The first time it triggered, it was very bad for us having to send in, have no blocks, and lose some life and some creatures. And then they got to get it back again with the resurrection spell, so that yet again I had to tap down one of my blockers, so I couldn't even leave 2 up. Even if I did leave 2 up because of Carter's ability draining us life when attacking creatures died, we were still probably dead. So yeah, that Carter Doom Scourge doing a lot of work that game. Very impressive stuff. I will keep this 7. We don't have a Snowland to untap with our Sculptor of Winter, so we don't get to curve out into Packmate turn 3, but I can like foretell it, be a little fancy. Got an Elderfang Disciple coming up. I'd rather play the larger creature first, I think. And this makes it so I can turn 4, I can play Packmate and Disciple if I foretell Packmate on turn 3. Foretell is a very fun mechanic because you can set up for plays like that. Ooh, I do need to draw land to do that, but Packmate will draw me a card. So we'll play Packmate first. Next turn, if I don't immediately draw my land as my card for turn. This hand is pretty sick once I hit my mana. Binding of the Old Gods, Vorinclex, lots of scary stuff. So I could play Binding of the Old Gods and just kill their Glittering Frost, because a lot of these Glittering Frost decks are ramping up and playing a lot of multicolored stuff, but yeah, I'll just blow up whatever they ramp into, I think. That just doesn't pan out if they ramp into a lot of scary cards, which does happen a lot. I'll go ahead and smack them for 2 with Sculptor of Winter, put them down to 16, and we are really gearing up for Vorinclex now. Binding the Old Gods is ready for next turn, and then Vorinclex on turn 6. Only need 1 more mana to do that, and thanks to drawing the Snowland, I can even untap it with the Sculptor and play Vorinclex next turn if I really want to. Depends on what my opponent plays, but actually that seems pretty likely. If they play anything that's smaller than a 6/6 and doesn't have Death Touch, just drop down a big old Trample Haste next turn. Alright, now that they've played an island, I would be mildly interested in blowing up the Glittering Frost, because we know that they're like probably 4 colors here. We know they're green, black, and blue. That's for certain. This Sulphurous Mire could just be in here as a tapped Snow Swamp for the snow mana. But it could also be in there for black and red. Alright, Blizzard Brawl just kills Packmate. That is definitely not the end of the world. Let's play Vorinclex, I think. Get in there, my friend. Hit them down to 10 here. We've got a struggle coming up. That'll put 2 +1/+1 counters on Vorinclex and I get to fight something. That's only if Vorinclex doesn't die and they have 3 cards left. So Vorinclex will probably die. Definitely don't want to use Struggle for Skemfar here. I guess it would lead into lethal. If they have nothing, Struggle is lethal damage, but it is a little risky. Because if they have an instant speed removal for Vorinclex, I do just get blown out here. I think this play's cool enough. I'm just going to go for it. We'll see what happens. They do have the instant speed removal for Vorinclex. So again, that probably was not the best line, but it was the coolest one, and I'm trying to get something cool to pan out ever in this format. I'll pass turn. They've got the 3/3. Yeah, I am kind of walled off now. Whenever Yorn attacks, they get to untap all their snow permanents. Yeah, so Yorn doesn't really do anything. Yorn's just another 3/3. Lijar is a pretty good draw. I don't feel the need to bind the old gods on Yorn. Yeah, Lijar is going to start making my tokens into just actual threats, and they're already down to 10. And I still have binding the old gods up. Narfi Betrayer King. Yeah, that's really brutal. Narfi's the kind of card you need exile-based removal to deal with, or you're just absolutely hosed. Because if we kill this with anything that sends it to the grave, it can just come back for triple snow. And they have 1, 2, 3. They've got at least 3 snow already. Unless we binding their Glittering Frost, but then we don't have the binding to kill the Narfi, so it just destroys us in that manner. Another Blizzard Brawl to blow up our Lijar Glade Warden so we aren't putting counters on our stuff. Attack with Ingaroon Eyes. So if I double block here, 3 creatures will have died, so they'll draw 3 off of this, and I'm at 20 life, so I can very much afford the 3 damage, so we'll just take it. Could binding the old gods on Narfi just to get it out of the way for 2 turns. I have 7 mana if I use Sculptor of Winter, so I don't have enough mana to cast Struggle for Skemfar and Binding the Old Gods, which is rough. Because that is what I would ideally want to do here. Because then I could Binding the Old Gods to kill Narfi and Struggle to kill Yorn, because Yorn would go down to 3/3 stats. I guess I'm killing Yorn, because Yorn will stay dead. Maybe we're foretelling Struggle here then. Well, yeah, if we're not casting it, because we can't afford to. There's no reason not to foretell there. Unless I wanted to move my Elven Bow to something else, but that doesn't seem important right now. I could make Sculptor of Winter a 3/4, but that's the biggest thing I could get going. They have 2 cards in hand. Got whatever mana they need with Glittering Frost. Way down on the Sculptor of Winter. Alright. Ooh, are they just sending in and I get to crack back here? I'm wondering what this last card is. Maybe Struggle for Skemfar can kill it? We'll find out. I'm good to take 7 here. I'm at 17. Just go down to 10. I can chump block next turn and save just as much damage. Sfella as a 3/5. Well, because they have Narfi, giving everything +1/+1, we can't get big enough to kill that. I guess we couldn't either way. We can only get to 3 power. So we'd have 3 power against a 2/4. So we're passing turn. The third part of Binding the Old Gods does give us Death Touch, but it's just too little too late here, I think. This might be a 1/3 run for good old Golgari Elves over here. Surprised they didn't send in. You have no idea why they didn't send in, because they don't have Death Touch there. They send in and I take 10 if I don't block. I'd have to make some chump blocks. Now they do have Death Touch, which means I do get to kill something off Struggle, so at least there's that. I guess I sacrifice Elderfang Disciple to kill Sfella. And I'm just kind of chilling. Actually, there's no reason to sacrifice, because I can make the 2-3 a 3-4, and then it has high enough toughness to just survive. Ooh, I know why they passed, because they wanted to use Sfella's second ability. Look at the top 4 and just cast one for free. They wanted to start Golosing. Kind of crazy Golos isn't uncommon in this format. I guess they don't have enough mana yet, do they? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? They were 1 mana off. Dang. Well, now I have a 3-4, so they can only attack in with Narfi. Hold the Multiverse is a great draw, though. Now they just draw 2. Apparently their top 2 cards were already exactly what they wanted, because they scryed both to top. And here comes Narfi. Go down to 6. And... okay. One of them is Sfella. I guess I get to cast King Harold's Revenge, and I attack with a 5 power, 6 toughness elf here, and I get to kill either Inga or Sfella. Then next turn I chump block Narfi, take 3. Yeah, we're still not winning off this, but I get to try this out again. Now that I have played the King Harold's Revenge, I can say it's not a card I would really play in the future. But at least I have played it, so I have the experience of casting the card to know for sure. Did decent work against the Mistwalker from our opponent. Not the Mistwalker, the 1-3 Masked Vandal, that's the name. But even that was just killing such an insignificant creature overall. Cool. So we kill Inga and pass turn chump. If I move this over, it does still survive. It's 3 toughness right now. I'm removing 2, so it would still have 1 toughness if I move this over, so I might as well, right? I guess then it's just a 2-3, which is still not big enough for anything, but at least now it doesn't just die to -2/-2. That being said, the only thing I could think of that would only do 2 to it would be Frostbite, and Frostbite does 3 damage if you control enough snow permanents, which they definitely do, so if they had Frostbite, it was already just going to die either way. Have to block here or we die, so we will take the chump block now, but unfortunately our opponent has a Seraph, which now gets to exile our whole field, depending on how big it is. Since our only creature is a creature token, they get to just exile that with Seraph when it goes to their turn. And Jarl the Forsaken is definitely too little too late here. So that is going to wrap up this Kaldheim draft. Another pretty poor record here, unfortunately. Really just throwing my gems in the wood chipper. Hey, they exiled their Manolith, so that's cool. Send in the attack. I will send a message and kill the Jarl. Or kill the Seraph with the Jarl. But we take 9, we're super dead there. And the server is back at it again, having one heck of a time trying to figure things out here. It's like, wait, what just happened? Did a game end? Where do I go after that? Home screen? Draft screen? Record screen? Question mark? Well, pretty sure this is the end of the draft, but I don't want to extra call it. All right. That is the end of the draft. 1 and 3 with this Elves deck. I think this deck deserved better, but looking back on it, I definitely would cut the King Harold's Revenge for something else. Probably, I think our biggest weakness was just like lack of removal, but we had a generally good late game. overall. We just didn't have any insane late game bombs, and it's kind of an issue in this format because a lot of the best stuff you can be doing in the late game is just surviving long enough to draw into something insane, like two of our opponents kind of did with the snow deck. With several of those snow uncommons are actually just the kind of cards that just take over the game in the late game, and then that Rakdos opponent with the bomb that just returned the whole field back. So, not a great time with Kaldheim recently, as you can see, and as you have seen in these videos if you've seen the last couple drafts, and especially if you've been at the live stream. It's been going quite poorly there, but especially you can see it with my gem count here. And unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with the Magic Arena content creator program, but they have not put up a single challenge all year, so I've gotten 0 gems from Wizards in January or February, so I'm hurting at that front too in terms of Premier drafts. So a small little channel update at the end of this video. It will probably not be daily Kaldheim drafts from now on, just because pretty soon I'm not going to be able to afford it without just dumping a bunch of cash into the game on gyms, and that's not something I like to do super often. While I'm not free to play, I'm not really trying to spend $100 a month or anything, so I will probably have some more event videos for the Friday Night Magic events coming up. I will still be doing the daily videos, don't worry about that. And maybe we'll pivot over to some Historic Brawl whenever I can't afford a draft, and there's no special constructed event going on. So there are some cool Friday Night Magics coming up. I know Momir's coming up in a couple weeks. That'll be very exciting. I'm going to play at least 2 of those, even though it's a one-day event. It's up for like 24 hours, so I could do 2 days of that, sort of. So yeah, I mean, there's cool things coming up. They have like Treasure Singleton coming up, I think I'll try out. But yeah, small update at the end. We will be pivoting over into some more constructed videos, just because those events are much cheaper / free, and I have been doing poorly enough with Kaldheim that my gems are getting absolutely absorbed at this rate. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all again for more Magic Arena content tomorrow.